Hello and welcome to It's About Youth. I'm your host, Fana Sheh. Now, home ownership or owning your first home is a dilemma for many youths of today with the rising property prices as well as the increasing cost of living. Here to talk more about this are two experts in their fields, Nazhan from Khazanah Research Institute as well as Marisa from IQI Global, to unpack where is the problem or challenges when it comes to youth and home ownership. Right, thank you so much for coming with us and joining us today.
Thank you.
Right,
Thank you,
okay.
Farana.
Let's set the tone and let's set the overview of the whole problem, right, Nazhan? Where are we when it comes to the youth and home ownership? Is there a decline or increase of youth opting to buy homes? What's the trend now?
All right. First of all, thank you for inviting me to this show. So it is important to define what is youth in Malaysia first. You can be someone like age 15 and or 40 to be considered as youth. But for the sake of today's discussion, we focus mainly for the young working adults. So, and in terms of home ownership, right, the trend in Malaysia is declining based on the census data, which is published by 2020 by Department of Statistics. We saw a decline, especially in the urbanized states. We don't have data for home ownership by age group, but assuming that youth difficult in terms of like they get low payment and and everything. So there is a trend for them to rent instead of home ownership. Yeah.
Right. Marisa, coming from IQI Global, looking at real estate, looking at property right now, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I agree with Nazhan actually, because the condition right now, the salary stagnant, you know, but the property prices are increasing. So even if there is a slight increase of salary, it's about 2.1%. However, Malaysian property prices are increasing by about 4.1%. So there is a huge gap between salary increment and also property prices. So with that being said, however, on the other hand, from NAPIC report for this year, 2024, this year, first half, there was a record of property transaction of about 101 billion, which is about 20 billion more compared to last year within the same period, which was about 80 billion. So there is about 20 billion more property transaction this year for the first half.
Right.
But of course, in that context, it might covers all age groups.
Right.
So, but in the context of youth, they are looking more towards affordable homes. So that's what they are starting to look at. But as a property negotiator, I do receive more and more inquiries, especially for affordable homes. And surprisingly, they are having more awareness towards properties for investments. Surprising.
Right. Okay. At a young age some more, right?
Yeah.
Right, okay. You touched a little bit on salary there and you touched about a little bit on the trend there. So I guess let's elaborate a bit further or dive a bit deeper on this. What are the stumbling blocks when it comes to owning a home, especially for youth today?
Yeah,
Nazhan?
if I missed that, yeah. So when it comes to home housing affordability, right, it's always a function of income and a function of price. So, and we have problem in these two functions or two areas. One, our supply is seriously unaffordable. If you look at our median multiple indicator for housing, which is widely being used in the world, so it has above 3. Above 3 means you are not affordable. The market itself is not affordable. The market is supplying unaffordable housing, unaffordable stocks to the general population. And now the second issue is income. We have, like she mentioned, a stagnant issue of wage, and we at KRI really discovered that. The middle and lower group of salarymen receive like very stagnant wage. And the compounding growth rate for income is lower, a lot lower than what is the compounding rate for housing, for homes.
Right. Marisa?
From my perspective, there are of course three things like what he mentioned about salary, of course. First thing, everything is high. High property price, high cost of living, and third is high debt. You know, most graduates, once they graduate, they have
student loans,
yeah, which actually cause financial disability for them. Secondly is stability. You know, most employers right now are offering jobs for temporary workers, like contract workers.
Okay.
When at the same time, banks prefer to loan the houses for permanent workers.
Right.
So that's a
There's a
challenge.
mismatch there. Yeah.
Yeah. And lastly, mindset and awareness lah. So, you know, they think about having a property is a long tenure of like 30 to 35 years. So they have the mindset that they prefer flexibility rather than a long tenure of commitment. Yeah.
A bit hesitant when it comes to, you know, like the commitment itself, right?
Sure.
So I guess that comes to my next question is, you know, with youths of today, you know, we want to own cars, we have, you know, other obligations. Do you think, I guess back on the awareness part, do you think young adults actually prioritize other financial commitments such as car loans or travel even over home ownership? Do they not see the value of home ownership anymore at this particular, you know, time?
Yeah, talking about car loans, there are many parts or areas in Malaysia that is actually not transit-oriented development, like they don't have train stations. So, to the point that car is a necessity. So, not all family have a privilege of having extra cars to give to their child. So, in the end, the child have to fork out some money or loan for cars. But at the same time, we also need to look back on the data that there are many youngsters face bankruptcy because of personal loans.
Right.
So personal loans can be because of they might need the cash to cover emergency expenses. But for me, okay, that's all right. But there's, on the other hand, there are some people that actually apply for personal loan for weddings, you know, family expectations. They expect their child to have a grand wedding when they actually don't need it. So, you know, all the things actually make that situation harder.
Well, we'll touch on that when it comes to financial, I guess, literacy and the way you sort of manage your finances.
Yeah, sure.
Definitely, you know, because we are talking about a huge chunk of money here when it comes to, you know, owning homes. So, Nazhan, you mentioned just now, a lot of youths actually prefer renting these days, right? Is that really true? Is renting actually a better financial decision for young people than buying a home these days in today's market?
Yeah, allow me to, but I did not say that youth prefer to rent, but they might just end up to
end up renting.
But the aspiration to own a house is still there. Like whatever the market is telling us right now. Yeah, in terms of priority, right? Yeah, according to AKPK data, Agency Credit and Counselling and Pengurusan Kredit reported that those aged 20 to 29 and those aged 30 to 39, their rank of loans that they have, number one is not housing, number one is cars. So it goes back to the structural issue in terms of our city design, the importance of car, and we cannot just blame them to own a car. It might be more productive to them to go to work and so on. So, and I agree there's a financial literacy issue there because we see bankruptcy level from Department of Insolvency, around 25% of those aged below 35. So, but as much as we want our youth to be financially literate, okay, they would know to talk about investment, to talk about spending, but when they just do the jobs that mismatch to their qualification, low-paid jobs, stagnant wage, so how do they can realize the aspiration to own a house?
Right. Sometimes the setting is already set for them like that, which is difficult at the get-go, right, Marisa?
Yep. Agree.
Right. Okay. We'll go for a short break. After this, we'll talk more about, you know, the stuff that I mentioned here, financial literacy, you know, renting and all that, and we look at some of the solutions that we can apply here after this break. Hello and welcome back to It's About Youth. Today I'm joined by Nazhan from KRI as well as Marisa from IQI Global to talk about the issue of home ownerships and youth. Right, we talked just now about some of the challenges faced by youth when it comes to owning homes, from cost of living to high property prices. Now we want to look more into some of the underlying issues as well as solutions to address some of these problems, right? But before that, I think one of the main things that we didn't address just now is the property market itself. Nazhan, what do you make of the property market this time around when it comes to, you know, affordable housing, for example? Do you think youths, for example, prefer to rent or prefer to, you know, get car loans, for example, because of, for example, you know, the houses are not being at a proper place, for example, the prices are a bit too high in urban areas. Are those things factorial issues when it comes to youth opting to buy homes?
Definitely. It's either the property itself is not affordable to be purchased, to own that property, or it's not worth buying. It's somewhere else, like beyond, like far away from the cities that the youth work. But to say whether youth, this situation to youth, the home ownership issues among youth really impacts the housing, I don't really see it, because developers, the housing market keeps on launching projects. You know, the transaction amount is high, billions, and the subsale property also active. So we cannot really tell whether this really impact the housing market itself, but definitely can have like more social issues, I would say.
Right. Marisa, what about you? What do you think when it comes to youth opting to buy homes? What are some of their preference, or do their preference meet actually what is available in the property market right now?
Yeah, from the youth, actually there's a 50-50 of group, like, you know, like there's no in between, like either they are actually looking into wanting a property, or they just prefer to rent. I think one thing is also because some jobs require you to travel a lot, and if you cannot afford it, I think it's okay to rent.
Right.
For me, but personally, as long as you have the plan, the long-term plan to actually own a home one day.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
If I may add,
sure.
even though renting might be affordable to use, but we cannot say that, oh, let's go ahead, just go rent instead of buying, because we don't have like a proper tenancy act that support the development of housing market as a whole,
Right.
which can contribute not just rights and responsibilities of tenants and landlords, but also how we can make tenants participate in a play role in their communities. Right? If you don't own a house, for example, you don't have right to be in residents association.
Right.
You don't have voice to make or to design, to manage your neighborhoods.
Right.
Yeah. So you isolate the people who are renting.
Right.
yeah, at the same time, it's also scary to think if one day in future there are many homeless people that are actually from our generations. It's scary to think of that. That's why I advocate to the youngsters. It's important, like, although you cannot afford it, I understand, but it's good to have awareness in owning your own property. Yeah.
And these homeless people are not just because they want to end up in streets.
Yeah, it's not their choice.
Yeah, they are maybe professionals. There's a trend now. Live in a car, you know, go shower in public toilet.
Right.
Yeah. So
Right, just because they can't afford to.
is that
own
as a
homes.
something like our aspiration for the nation? Yeah, I guess it should not be that way.
Right. I mean, it's definitely something that people don't really see right now. It's something that people often mislook, I think, because the problem, if not addressed, it can go very, very bad in the future, right? Right. Okay. So I guess that kind of dives into my next question, which is, do you think the trend of delaying home ownership among youth will have long-term consequences on themselves, the economy or even the housing market. So I think you addressed a little bit of, of the youth itself. What about the economy as well as the housing market in general?
Okay, so for the housing market, I think in terms of rental, if one day many youngsters prefer to rent, of course there will be an increase in rental prices. So it all goes back to your financial situation at the same time, you know. And but however, the lower demand in housing market probably will cause the real estate industry to be not as mushrooms as now, you know, like macam cendawan bertumbuh, you know. So that might affect, probably property prices is hard to decrease in price actually, but probably the increase in price could be not so fast as how it happened last 10 years. Yeah.
Right. So it's a good and bad thing.
It's a good and bad thing.
If I may add to the how housing industry can relate, but like relate to other industries as well. I mean, this industry is very interrelated to other industry. You have contractors, you have your professionals, and so on. But the fact is, we have overhang issues and a lot of unsold housing in the market, and there's no market correction for now. You know, it's like a very unique problem to Malaysia. And on the other side, we have youths that are struggling to own a house, but market is not correcting itself now.
Right.
So it's just totally, there must be something else. What is happening in the housing market? And also our economy. Whether it will crashing down or not, I don't have that anticipation. But the impact to the social issues, or other side other than economy, like I said, you don't have the right. You don't own a house. You don't have the right to be resident social. Then, how do you contribute to your neighborhoods? In a bigger agenda, how can you don't have the right to contribute to your neighborhoods, to manage yourself as a committee? Then how you can contribute to nation building?
Right. True. Right.
So all this talk about city for youth. Design for youth, are left to old people or dinosaurs to manage that.
We're quite familiar with that. Right. So what I'm hearing is, obviously there's a problem with youth and owning homes, but there's not enough sort of incentives or corrections being made to sort of address that. And when it comes to like the property, for example, there are aspirations to own property, but the mismatch is still there.
Still there.
Right, still there. So, okay, you want to talk about solutions, but before that, there was one thing that we mentioned just now, which is financial literacy. So how does financial literacy among the younger generation actually impact their decision regarding home ownership? Anyone can take it.
Okay. Financial literacy is the very important aspect actually. Okay. No matter how much your salary is, honestly, I have a few cases whereby the financial background is actually like about salary about 10K and above, oil and gas industry and so on. However, the DSR burst, meaning the debt service ratio is burst because due to car loans, personal loans, because when you have the options to buy a car and when you have the capability to actually loan a certain amount, you decided to go for something more expensive.
Right.
So, and I also had another cases, a B40 cases, whereby he needed to purchase a 200,000 property, but he could only loan for 100,000 property. And he needed to deposit for about 100K. Surprisingly, he is a B40 and he had that amount of savings. So what I'm trying to say is, other than government initiatives, which I will talk about later, our mindset, our environment, our practices in terms of financial literacy and delayed gratification is really, really important.
Right, definitely. We have a few more questions to go, but I think the main point here is solution, right? So first is, how effective are the government solutions right now when it comes to addressing housing affordability to youth? And let's couple that with how do we create more innovative solutions when it comes to addressing the problem. Nazhan, let's go with you.
Okay, we have to admit that government has been very helpful and very to make home ownership as an aspiration for Malaysian. So in terms of youth, there are a lot of incentive or programs given out there. Scheme Jampinan Pinjaman Kredit, Scheme Belia, Residency Madani, and we have to be very thankful for this government. You know, these very actions, very initiative. We have to be thankful. But however, whether it is effective or not, then we have to really think about it. First, it does not really address this initiative. Do not really address the issue of supply that we have and market correction that takes forever to correct. Yeah, it's just like something. It does not really tell you the logic of economy, supply and demand mismatch. The market did not correct. Yeah, and there's a lot of overhangs issue, unsold properties, and all that. Yeah, but prices are not lowering down as much as to the level that youth can own that without any government intervention, by just the market itself. Yeah. So that's one thing. Another thing is the income. Like I said, jobs for the youth. Our KRI study showed that almost 15% of fresh graduates end up doing jobs that overqualified for them with low payment. That's another structural issue.
Another mismatch.
And if we want to really think about renting, renting is way forward. Push for, I would say, tenancy act that covers not just about rights and responsibilities of contracting parties, but broader aspect of community development, nation buildings, and all that.
More comprehensive.
More comprehensive.
Right, Marisa?
Yeah, I think we can also learn from Singapore. Singapore practices HDB, and under HDB they have OTB, order to build. Basically, like what you mentioned about overhang units in Singapore, because they have very minimum amount of land, so they are very strict in terms of developing houses. So under HDB, OTB means order to build, meaning for every project that they want to build, they need to be 60 to 70% booked units at least. So before them can actually start the development. So I think if our government can actually control more towards that, we can reduce the amount of overhang properties in the future, hopefully. Yeah.
And this will help the youth as well in terms of looking at, properties that they can actually own, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And also, sorry to add, under HDB, they also have a very it's the design or the facade of the building is actually much more simpler as compared to other. So that also can reduce the construction cost. So eventually reduces the price of the property. Hopefully.
If I may add, the order to build is something like workable for Singapore, and it makes developers more disciplined, right? For our country, I guess we are practicing sell then build.
True.
We don't have the house yet, and people people buy something that does not exist. It's not there yet, and people take commercial risk on their side. Right. So this is very unfair agreements for house buyers and developers, and we have cases. Abandoned house, delayed projects, which adds on to financial commitment to those who are buying this project. So I think as youth, I would say, leave this out. We should go for build and sell. At least for youth market. And youth they are the leaders of the country. Business practice, business ecosystem that is, our forefathers have created should be left out further. Should not be, we should think.
We should think about addressing it. We should think about correcting it sometime now. Yes, I mean, obviously, with all this, we hope there will be a restructure and you know, a way forward when we look at affordable housing and home ownership when it comes to youth, to make it more accessible for our generation. I would say I'm youth, but yeah, for our generation, to look at owning homes in the future and for future generations as well. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have. I'm pretty sure there's a lot more to unpack, but hopefully, you know, we're able to get a jump start on this, some of the solutions that we mentioned, some of the challenges that or problems that we mentioned here. Thank you so much, Nazhan, and thank you so much, Marisa, for all your insights, and hopefully we'll see, you know, some of these challenges and issues and solutions being addressed. I'm Fanashe, and this is It's About You. Thank you for watching.